Good morning, students. Our today's topic in business studies is market research. In the topic of marketing, so this is very important topic as far as your papers are concerned. So concentrate yourself. We are going to start. Before market research, you have to know some businesses are product oriented and some businesses are market oriented. So what is product and market oriented? You have to clear about it. So concentrate yourself. Many businesses are product oriented, a business which develop products with little or no market research and which it hopes will prove successful in the market. So some businesses are very sure about the success of their product. They are sure that there is no need of the market research. They first make their product and then market because they are very sure about the success of the product. These kind of the businesses are called product oriented. This means that they design and make a product and then try to convince consumers to buy it. An example might be a drug company like Glaxo developing a product to help consumers with an illness and then advertising it. Okay, on the other hand, some businesses are market oriented. They first research what the consumers are wanting, what they are in need of, and then they make a product according to the needs of the consumers. That kind of the business is called market oriented. So businesses can also be market oriented. A business which develops products which have been researched and designed to meet the needs of the consumers. This is where they try to find out what consumers want before making the final product. Okay, so first businesses know about themselves what kind of the business they are. Either they are product oriented or market oriented, and then they will make the product. So look now, in 1996 Cadbury launched Fuse, a new chocolate bar. Before the launch, Cadbury tried to find out the type of the product consumers wanted. Finding out about what consumers want and need and what makes them buy is called market research. So they are researching what kind of the product a consumer need. So that is called market research. Okay, why research the market? The process of gaining information about customers, competitors, and market trends through collecting primary and secondary data is called market research. So this is the definition of the market research. Researching the market helps reduce the risk of the failure. A carefully researched product stands less chance of failing. So this is the need for the research. So if a careful research is made, then there will be less chance of the failure of the product. So this is the reason why research the market. Okay, next is stages of the market research. Market research attempts to find the answers to question a business might have about its market. For example, the development of the Fuse began with the question of how Cadbury could expand both the market for the chocolate confectionery and its own share of the snacking sector of the market. So these are the stages. The market researcher must then decide what information might help answer this question. So businesses want information about the existing pattern of the sales in the market and how the market was changing. This is the first question to whom the answer is required. What is the market trend in the market And what is the existing pattern of the sales? So this is the first question to which we need an answer as a businessman. It needed to identify segment of the market which it could sell to. This is the second question. In which sector of the market we can sell our product? This is the second question. Next is businesses also wanted consumers to tell it about the sort of the new product they wanted to buy. So this is the third question. Which kind of the product you need? We as a businessman will ask the question from the consumers, what kind of the product you need? So definitely, what is the market trend? Which is the what is the trend of the market in the market, and second is the existing pattern of the sales. Next is to identify the segment of the market, and next is the consumers to tell about the which sort of the new product they wanted to buy. Okay, the market researcher then decides how best to collect this information. Okay, these are the questions which arise in the mind of the businessman. Okay, next will be what kind of the research method should be used to collect the answers of these questions. So look now, the market researcher then decides how best to collect this information. The information is then collected and analyzed. Finally, the business has to make a decision about what to do in the light of the information gained. Cadbury decided to launch a new product nationally. Okay, first we are going to discuss different types of the research now. So types of the research. First method is desk research. Desk research involves the use of the secondary data. Okay, so there are two new terms coming in the topic. One is secondary data, second is primary data. Primary data is which do not exist already. So this is the first-hand data that you want to gain direct from the market. That is called primary data. And secondary data that is already existed, that already has done by the other persons or the organizations, and that is already available. For example, I want the data of some telephone numbers of the persons who are using banking. So the data is already available. That kind of data is secondary data. So desk research involves the use of the secondary data. This is information which is already available both within and outside the business. And here are some ways from where we can get the secondary data. Number one is internal sources such as sales invoices, reports and accounts. So these are some things which tell us about the trend of the market. Second way of getting the secondary data is government. Government published statistics such as consumer spending figures, reports such as monopolies and mergers commission report. The third way to get the secondary data is the media. Media reports in newspapers, magazines, on radio and on television. Next way to get the secondary data is trade associations. Statistics or the reports published by national organizations such as the TUG, the CBI or the Chamber of the Commerce or Industries Association such as Engineering Employee Federation or the National Farmer Union. So these are trade associations which already have collected data about something. So we can use the data from that kind of the associations as well. The next way to get the secondary data is research organizations. So in any country, there are research organizations available who publish reports prepared by the specialist market research organizations such as Mintel or Mori, articles published in academic journals such as university journals. So these are the sources of the secondary data. So this is the first way any business can get information. This is called desk research. The second way to research the market is field research. Field research involves the collection of the primary data, information which no one has yet collected. So this is first-hand knowledge. This is called primary data. It is collected especially for the particular piece of the research. Primary data is collected through the direct investigation, usually through observation, survey, or experiment. So this is the second way of researching the market. So next is observation. Looking at and recording what people do and how they behave can be important. For instance, a supermarket may find that sales in one SL in the store are very poor, so they are observing it. By observing people, it would be possible to see whether the problem was that shoppers were avoiding the SL. However, observation cannot tell the supermarket anything about why shoppers are behaving in this way. So, this was the way of researching the market, observation. You can get some information that is required as a businessman by observation. The next way to research the market is surveys. So, a survey usually involves asking questions of respondents. Respondents are the people or the organizations who reply to the questions asked. Cadbury, for instance, used a survey to find out about the snacking habits and preferences of the consumers. The survey showed that snack foods often were used as meal substitutes. So, this is survey. A survey usually involves asking questions of the respondents. There are different ways of conducting surveys. So now we are going to discuss the different ways of conducting surveys. A postal survey, where questionnaires, a list of the questions to be answered by respondents. So questionnaire is a list of the questions to be answered by respondents designed to give information about consumers' taste. You people have seen questionnaires many times. Whenever you go to some restaurants for dinner or lunch, you see there are questionnaires placed on the table like a card paper on which some questions are placed. For example, question number 1 is, what kind of the taste are you feeling? Good, poor, excellent. So you have to tick the appropriate option. What kind of the service you feel? What kind of the rate are you feeling? So these kind of questions are placed on the questionnaire. So this kind of the list of the question is called questionnaires. So a postal survey where questionnaires, a list of the questions to be answered by respondents designed to give information about consumers' taste, are sent through the post. Because they are sent through the post, that's why they are called postal surveys. Or newspapers surveys where readers are invited to fill in and return a questionnaire. Telephone surveys, personal interviews, and consumers panels are more expensive because an interviewer has to be employed to interview customers. Because in postal survey, a printed paper has to be sent or given to the clients, consumers. No interviewer is needed. But in kind of the personal telephone survey, personal interviews, and consumer panels are more expensive because an interviewer has to be employed to interview customers. Because you have to employ an interviewer, that's why you have to pay for it. That's why this is an expensive method. The interviewer can also help the respondent understand what questions mean and how they should be answered. But this is the benefit of hiring an interviewer. So the interviewer can also help the respondents understand what questions means and how they should answer. So there are some disadvantages as well as advantages of hiring an interviewer. If the interview is in a person's home, products, packaging, etc. can also be shown so that the reactions can be recorded. So this is another way of the survey. You have seen some people who are coming from some different companies at your home. They ring your bell and show the product that we are coming, sir, for the publicity. So these kind of the survey is called interview in a person's home, where products, packaging, etc. can also be shown so that the reactions can be recorded. A consumer panel, where a group of the people meet together, allows researchers to see how people react in a group situation to a product or idea. So this is an other way of survey, where some consumers are gathered at a place and allows researchers to see how people react in a group situation to a product or idea. Surveys can only be useful for the market research purposes if the questions asked are appropriate. For instance, sometimes it is important to ask closed questions. So here two more terms are coming: closed questions and open questions. Closed questions are those kind of the questions in which options are given. For example, like the paper you are attempting in some kind of these subjects are MCQs paper, in which a question is there and some options are there, and you have to tick the appropriate question according to the knowledge in your mind. So you have not to explain the answer. And open question is in which a question is there and you have to design the answer through your mind. That kind of the question is called open question. So look now, surveys can only be useful for market research purposes if the questions asked are appropriate. For instance, sometimes it is important to ask closed questions. These are questions which have a definite answer. An example would be, how many chocolate bars did you buy last week? So this is a definite answer. You may answer 2. So there is no need to explain. So these kind of the questions are called closed questions. Other times the market researcher might want to find out about opinions and allow the respondents to develop an answer. It is best then to ask open questions, which have many possible answers. For instance, why do you like the packaging of the fuse? Is an open question. Next way of the market research is sampling. Sampling is usually the larger the sample, the more representative the statistics are of the whole population. So the shorter the sample, the answers may be confusing. The bigger the sample, that will be more representative. The statistics are of the whole population. So sampling, first method of the sampling is simple random sampling. Every item in the population has an equal chance of being chosen. You assign a number to each item and then use random number tables, a calculator, or a computer to choose a sample, ignoring duplicate numbers. So for example, you roll a die. There are 6 numbers on a die: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and every number has an equal chance to come. That kind of the sampling is called simple random sampling. For example, there are 6 persons. You assign a number to everyone, and then blindly you choose a person. For example, you roll your finger at once, so this one, so you do not know. So every person has an equal chance of coming. That is called simple random sampling. This method is more suited to a relatively small population where the sampling frame is complete. Although using random numbers is free from personal bias, there is no guarantee that the actual sample chosen is unbiased. Because when you roll a die, one may be coming frequently. That is a luck. So, although you are not biased, but the sample coming is biased. For example, there are 6 person, every person has a number, and you have folded papers and put it into a box, and you pick a paper. So, one particular person may come again and again. You pick out one paper, check the number, that is 2. You again fold the paper, put it again into the box, shuffle, again pick a paper, again maybe 2 coming, that is luck. So although you are not biased, but the sample may be a biased. Next type of the sampling is stratified sampling. The population is divided into categories, strata. Categories called strata. And the categories may be by age, by gender, by social class. Then a random sample is chosen from each category. The size of each sample is in proportion to the size of each category within the population. For example, there are a group of the 10 persons in which 7 are girls and 3 are boys. So you have to pick according to the proportion a sample from the group. So there are, for example, if there are 100%, there are 70 girls and 30 boys in the group. So if you want to pick a group of a sample of the 10 persons, so there are 70 girls, so you have to pick 7 girls out of 70 and 3 boys out of 30 according to the proportion. So 7 girls and 3 boys is a sample, that is called stratified sample. So the size of the each sample is in proportion to the size of each category within the population. For example, in an infant school with 150 pupils, where 30 are in reception year, 60 in year 1 and 60 in year 2. A stratified sample of size 15. So look now, 150 are total and we want to pick a sample of 15. Would we choose 3 from reception because there are 30. So 3 will be chosen from 30. 6 will be chosen from 60 year 1 students and 6 will be chosen from 60 in year 2 students. So this is called stratified sampling. This is an example. Stratified sampling ensures you have a fair proportion of the responses from each group of the population. Next type of the sampling is called systematic sampling. Systematic sampling is a very simple one. For example, there are 100% who are standing in a line. So if you are choosing every 5th person, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5th is picked. Then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5th is picked, like 5th, 10th, 15th, 20th, 25th, like every 5th person is chosen. That is called systematic sampling. A regular pattern is used to choose the sample. Every item in the population is listed, a starting number is randomly chosen, and then every nth item is selected. For example, every 50th packet of the seeds from a production batch is tested for germination. This is an example. This is a simpler and quicker method to select a random sample, but may be unrepresentative if a pattern exists in the list. Next method of the sampling is cluster sampling. The population is divided into groups or clusters. A random sample of clusters is chosen. and every item in the chosen cluster is surveyed. A large number of the small clusters minimizes the chances of this being unrepresentative. So this is the method to minimize the chances of being unrepresentative, that divide the full group into small clusters. The as many small clusters you made, that will minimizes the chance of being unrepresentative. This method is used, for example, by biologists to study flora and fauna. So this is cluster sampling. Next type of the sampling is quota sampling. Instructions are given concerning the amount is called quota, of each section of the population to be sampled. A disadvantage is that the actual people or the items chosen are left to the discretion of the surveyor, which could lead to bias. An advantage of this method is that no sampling frame is required. This method is commonly used in market research. For example, you have seen a lot of times interviewer is go to the streets to take the opinion of the persons about something. He is holding a mic and he randomly asks the question from that person, then from he look, this is the person, right? From like that is up to the discretion of the surveyor. Whatever he is thinking, he put the mic to that person. Then okay, what is your opinion? Okay, what is their opinion? That kind of the survey is called sampling, is called quota sampling. If there are n items in the population, an appropriate sample size is square root n. So if there are 100 persons, for example, in total, so we have to take an sample of square root 100, that will be equal to 10. So that is called quota. So quota is this kind of the sample. Next is convenience sampling. The most convenient sample is chosen, which for a sample of the size 60 could mean the first 60 people you meet. It is highly likely that this sample would be biased and unrepresentative. So, for example, interviewer go to the market, there are maybe 10,000 persons, and the company has ordered to take the interview of any 60 persons out of 10,000. So he go to the streets, and for example, in one street he interviewed up to 20 persons. In second street he interviewed to 30 persons, and on the way back he is interviewing 10 persons. He is not going, for example, to the other streets. So he is interviewing to the first 60 persons he meet. So that kind of the sampling is called convenience sampling. So he is interviewing according to his convenience. Next is called opinion polls. That is another kind of the method of the market research. Large scale opinion polls often use a combination of the cluster and quota sampling. An example of this is the accurate estimates of the outcome of the general election for public offices. So this kind of the sampling is normally used in the campaign for public elections. You normally see the candidates or the interviewers coming from different channels, news channels, and ask about the uh, uh, candidates who are actually standing in the election. So that kind of the sampling is called opinion polls. An example is this: accurate estimate for the outcome of the general election for public office. The sample size may be large, but is often based on very small proportion of the population. A major disadvantage of the conclusion drawn from the opinion poll is that opinions may change over time. So this is the disadvantage. The criteria for selection of a sample in national opinion polls are geographical, area, age, gender, social and economic background. So this may be the criteria for the sample of the national opinion polls. Okay, another way of getting market research is experiments. Market researchers can use experimental techniques. to launch a new product is often very costly. Manufacturers like Cadbury therefore test products as they are being developed to check that they are likely to succeed. New chocolate bars are usually test marketed in an area before being launched nationally. So this is another way of the market research. Before launching in full, new chocolate bars are usually test marketed in an area before being launched nationally. So this is experimental technique. And finally, when you get all kind of the answers of your questions, you have to make the decision. Either you are going to launch the product or not. That is called decision. Now, as a businessman, I have to make the decision. So look now, the purpose of the market research is to help business come to a decision. Cadbury thought that there was the potential to launch a new chocolate confectionery product. It found out what consumers wanted from any new product. It then created the product. Consumers' trials showed that the new product would be success. Finally, Cadbury took the risk of launching the product nationally in September 1996. All careful market research paid off because Fuse was a bigger success than Cadbury had predicted. So this was the lecture, students. Different kinds of the market research. So read this lecture again very carefully. This is one of the very important topic in the subject of business studies O levels, and make your notes. Thank you so much.